China flexed its military muscle at its politically charged Victory Day parade, showcasing never-before-seen missiles, tanks, and fighter jets.
Russia launched 500 drones and missiles at several regions in Ukraine overnight into Wednesday morning.
U.S. President Donald Trump is set to order federal interventions in Chicago and Baltimore, a move Democrat governors say is a cover-up for his corruption.
China flexed its military muscle at its politically charged military parade, showcasing some never-before-seen missiles, tanks, and fighter jets. Among the military hardware, China unveiled a new intercontinental ballistic missile, giant underwater drones, and an LY-1 laser weapon. The parade also featured several new hypersonic warheads, an area where Beijing is advancing. Experts noted that China has been focused on developing its missile and rocket forces as a key part of its defense strategy to counter U.S. naval superiority. At the event, Chinese leader Xi Jinping praised the armed forces and cast China as an unstoppable force. The parade, marking the 80th anniversary of China's victory over Japan in World War II, took place in Tiananmen Square and was attended by leaders from across the world. It showcased how Beijing has spearheaded a modernization drive in the People's Liberation Army. Xi has funneled billions into developing weapons to turn the PLA into what he says is a world-class fighting force by the mid-century. The US has noted Beijing's rapid military build-up, declaring China was outpacing the US through 2 decades of focused military investment in its national defense strategy of 2022. Russian President Vladimir Putin thanked North Korea's Kim Jong-un for supplying troops to fight alongside Russian forces in Ukraine during a meeting between the two allies in Beijing. South Korean intelligence suggests that North Korea has sent roughly 15,000 troops to Russia since last year. Thousands are believed to have been killed or wounded during fighting in Russia's Kursk region, where Ukrainian troops launched a surprise offensive in August 2024. Experts believe Moscow sent North Korea goods, including military equipment and oil, in exchange for its military support. North Korea has publicly acknowledged it dispatched soldiers to the Russia-Ukraine border in April and pledged to send construction workers to help rebuild parts of the war-torn Kursk region. Their alliance comes as both deal with a raft of international sanctions, with Moscow targeted over its full-scale invasion of Ukraine and North Korea over its nuclear program. The pair's rare meeting came as China held one of its largest ever military parades in Beijing, commemorating 80 years since the end of the Second World War in Asia.
Russia launched 500 drones and missiles at several regions in Ukraine overnight into Wednesday morning. The attacks targeted mainly western and central Ukraine and injured at least 5 people, the Ukrainian Air Force have said. President Volodymyr Zelensky said mostly civilian infrastructure and energy facilities were targeted. The Ukrainian leader warned that the strikes were demonstrative and urged its allies to apply more pressure onto Moscow. It comes amid ongoing efforts by European leaders to bolster Ukraine's defenses, which follows so far unsuccessful US-led peace talks. On Wednesday, UK Defence Secretary John Healey arrived in Kyiv for talks with his Ukrainian counterpart Denis Shmyhal, where the two will discuss joint defence efforts. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin traveled to China to meet Chinese leader Xi Jinping and North Korea's Kim Jong-un, both of whom the US has accused of continuing to support Russia's war efforts.
U.S. President Donald Trump is applying pressure on Democrat governors of several states to accept his proposal of deploying armed troops to secure their cities. The initiative comes off the back of what Trump described as a successful experiment in Washington, where he says crime, once running rampant for years, is now non-existent. The U.S. president described cities like Chicago and Baltimore as hellholes, calling their leadership incompetent for not accepting his offer.
So in the last 3 weeks, he's lost almost 20 people killed. There's no place in the world, including you can go to Afghanistan, you can go to places that you would think of. They don't even come close to this. Chicago is a hellhole right now. Baltimore is a hellhole right now. I would love to have Governor Pritzker call me. I'd gain respect for him and say, we do have a problem, and we'd love you to send in the troops because you know what? The people, they have to be protected.
In an almost immediate response, officials in the state of Illinois resolutely rejected Trump's pleas, asserting that the U.S. president has ulterior motives.
Chicago does not want troops on our streets. I also have experience asking the president for assistance, just to have the rug pulled out from underneath me when execution meets reality. None of this is about fighting crime or making Chicago safer. None of it. For Trump, it's about testing his power and producing a political drama to cover up for his corruption.
Trump said, however, that he'll deploy troops with or without the governor's requests, but hasn't indicated when that might be. Speaking to journalists in the White House, Trump noted that he has an obligation to protect the people, which comes above what Washington has previously called political games. Trump's policing initiative has sparked fears among many lawmakers who accuse him of attempting to subvert democracy and bypass checks and balances.
Defense and security were identified as the key priority to bolster EU global influence. This was determined by a Eurobarometer poll published by the European Parliament on Wednesday. 37% of those surveyed believe that the security of the continent is the main challenge for member states at an international level.
C'est la plus grande priorité qui ressort pour l'Union européenne. C'est la deuxième priorité quand on parle des priorités de ce que le Parlement européen devrait faire. Évidemment, il y a des contrastes État membre par État membre.
After defense, 32% of respondents believe that the EU must take action to boost competitiveness in order to strengthen its international position, followed by energy independence at 27%. Overall, citizens want member states to play a greater role in protecting Europeans from global crises and security threats. To achieve this, respondents believe that more joint projects are needed.
78% indiquent que ce serait bien de faire des projets où l'on finance les projets en commun, parce qu'il y a une plus grande valeur ajoutée que si on la finance État membre par État membre. Donc c'est important comme signal au moment où on lance les discussions sur le budget à long terme de l'Union européenne, de savoir que ce budget commun est perçu comme une manière positive d'avoir un levier pour des projets en commun.
At the same time, the survey shows that granting governments a blank check is out of the question. 85% of Europeans believe that EU funds should be conditional on respect for rule of law and democratic values. Overall, citizens have a positive image of the EU, with 73% of those surveyed believing that their country has benefited from joining the European project.
U.S. President Donald Trump says 11 narco-terrorists were killed in a U.S. strike on an alleged Venezuelan drug boat. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said the U.S. military conducted a kinetic strike on the boat operated by the Venezuelan Tren Aragua gang. Speaking to reporters at the Oval Office, the U.S. president said this is the latest in a continuous fight his administration is leading to combat the flow of narcotics into the U.S.
You'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela, so we took it out.
Trump shared a video of the strike along with his post, which showed a speedboat carrying numerous people burst into flames after the strike. Venezuela's communications minister commented on the video posted by Trump, citing irregularities and calling it AI-generated. The escalation comes after Trump intensified U.S. presence in the Caribbean to address the threat posed by drug cartels. His deployment of several naval battleships prompted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro to deploy soldiers on the coast and urged the public to enlist in civilian militias. Trump accuses Maduro of leading the Tren Aragua gang, a claim which contradicts a U.S. intelligence assessment which found no credible links between the two. Caracas, meanwhile, accuses Washington of attempting to orchestrate a regime change in seek of the country's riches, which possesses the world's largest proven oil reserves.
Which European regions have the highest density of cars per 1,000 inhabitants? Eurostat data says there's an average of 0.56 passenger cars per inhabitant in the European Union. The top 3 regions with the highest rate are all in the mountainous northern part of Italy, the Aosta Valley, with nearly 2.5 cars per resident, the Trento province and the Bolzano province. The Aosta Valley record rate in particular is influenced by favorable taxation rules. On the other end of the spectrum is the French overseas territory of Mayotte, followed by Greece's Peloponnesus and another overseas French department, Guyane. Some European capitals also feature among the places with the lowest rates of cars per 1,000 inhabitants, like Berlin, Vienna, Brussels and Stockholm. Stockholm is also the European region with the second highest share of electric cars, along with the Netherlands' Utrecht, both at 6.6%. The Dutch province of Flevoland is first, with 12.8% of cars being electric.